right, we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome back to Down to Hell. Down to Hell was silent last week because we were in Atlanta at the Days of the Dead convention. And I see already somebody saying it was a pleasure to meet me at Days of the Dead. So good to know we got some people from the convention looking in. And look, who else was hanging out at the Days of the Dead convention in Atlanta? And I am thrilled to have joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Corey Taylor.
Hey guys,
Hi,
we
thank
did
you
it.
so much for joining us.
Yeah, well, we've been talking for a little while.
Yeah,
yes.
Happening, and we finally met in person, which is cool.
Yes, I was sitting at my table minding my business, and somebody dropped into the seat next to me, and
You're like, "Who's this fucking idiot
oh
sitting down next to
no,
me? Who's
who
this
now?
weirdo?"
You want a picture? Sure.
it's usually the smell that hits you first, and you're just like, "Oh God, what the hell?" Oh, then it's just Corey. It's fine, you know.
Yes. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, man. Yeah. That was the first time I'd done Atlanta, and I was supposed to do it last year, but I got COVID, so I had to. So I was kind of. This was me circling back to hit it again. So, but yeah, I had a blast. There were a bunch of good people there. It looked like you guys were doing great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good weekend.
Yeah.
Now, is this a new departure? I know you were here in Pittsburgh. You did the Steel City Con.
Yeah.
Last year. I hope that's not where you got COVID.
No. I got COVID from one of my solo shows towards the end. And it was really weird, man, because the first solo tour that we did, we had everything locked down. The bubble was super tight. And then because we succeeded with that one, we got a little too lax on the second one, and everybody was like, we could do this. It's gonna be great. And then I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was somebody in the band that might have had it, or somebody in the audience that got it, but my entire stage left band, including myself and my monitor guy and my guitar player, we all got COVID. And like
everybody on stage left got COVID.
Yep.
Stage right was fine.
Yeah, stage right, completely fine. I could not believe it. I was like, and of all the people I thought would get it, those dudes, I was like, how did you not get it?
Already immune.
Losing my mind. Yeah. So.
Right. So was that?
Yeah. So I was stuck in the Denver airport hotel for a week.
Oh my God.
Sick. I mean, the sickest I've ever been, man. It was so gnarly. Yeah.
Is this Omicron time or?
No, this would have been. This probably was Delta, and it hit me even vaxxed. I mean, and obviously, being vaxxed is probably what got me through it. But yeah, I was sick for about 3.5 days, like the sickest I've ever been in my life.
Right, but just like really, really bad flu. You didn't end up having to go to hospital or anything.
No, I didn't. I just decided to hunker down. You know, if it had not broken, I would have called and had somebody come in and get me. But I knew that the hospitals are so overrun right now anyway. There was what were they going to do for me? Just kind of put me in a chair and say whatever. So it was like, it made more sense for me to kind of stay away from everybody and just kind of ride it out and see what would happen. Because from everything I read, it was within 3 to 5 days. Usually the fever would break and like everything would kind of settle back down. You'd still have the aches and stuff, but your temperature would come back down. And so I knew to kind of ride it out like that. And I mean, I must have sweat through my bed like 20 times. It was so crazy. And I'll spare
somebody
you
else was doing
gross details too.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've got a good dose of natural immunity out of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta was the first convention we've done in
Since
6
July.
months.
Yeah.
Oh right. Yeah.
We did the Steel City Con here.
Oh no, that's right. August. I keep forgetting we did that.
Steel City Con,
Yeah.
and I got slightly alarmed because where you've done the show. It's not the biggest space. I walked in on Saturday morning and it was absolutely rammed.
Yeah.
Almost nobody was wearing a mask.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, from what I was told though, that you could only buy a ticket if you could prove vaccination. Now I don't know if that was true or not. Like at least the days that I did it, but
but, you know, as we know, and as you just said, you know, being vaccinated, is it a wise thing to do? I think absolutely yes. And I'm not ordinarily a huge fan of vaccines. We both got vaccinated, but it never meant that you wouldn't acquire the virus.
Right.
The virus doesn't give a shit. It doesn't know, oh, he's vaccinated, leave him alone, on to the next person. Doesn't stop you acquiring it.
You're getting controversial already, by the way.
If you've acquired it, it's not going to stop you passing it on to somebody.
Well, that's what I told. Yeah, that's what I told everybody. Is like, just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean you don't get it. And I think that's what a lot of uninformed people decided, that, you know, now that I've got the vaccine, I don't need to worry about anything. And it's like, well, I mean, you can still pass it. It just keeps you from dying. You know, I think overall that's the main goal.
Yes,
is
I would like to not die, please. Thank you.
Generally a good idea.
Yeah.
I think, by and large. Speaking of viruses,
I mean, I would like to not get any virus, not just, you know.
Yes. Well,
inevitably, and you know, because you've been doing conventions for a little while now, right? How long? When did you do your first one?
I started. Oh man.
So you're getting to be like a veteran now.
Well, I mean, I started doing them last year.
Okay.
And I think my first was Spooky Empire down in Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one we canceled out of.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, we had a good time, you know. But I was the same way. I was, you know, there was some trepidation, just whether or not it was gonna.
I mean, a lot of times, you know, a few days after a convention's over, you're kind of talking to your friends, you know, whether it be your actor friends or your vendor friends, and you find out that a bunch of people wound up sick. And I'm talking like pre-COVID days, and we would always, you know, refer to it as the convention crud.
Right.
You know, sort of that nondescript. Do I have cold? Do I have flu? You know.
Right. We have tour crud. Right. We have the same thing, but when we go on the road, somebody, especially if it's flu season or, you know, the cold season, one person gets it, everyone's got it within a week. And you just have to kind of you soldier on, you do what you got. But I also think that's one of the reasons why our, you know, constitutions are so strong, is because we are exposed to so many different people and so many different things, man. I mean, half the time I'm just glad that the food is clean, you know.
Well, that was at the beginning of this whole thing, you know. I stood back and we had just done a show in Charlotte.
Wow.
I thought
February 2020.
Jesus, when it was, the thing was just, it was a bit of a whisper in the background that something nasty might be happening.
Yeah.
We subsequently found out from the promoter that lots of his members of staff were very ill suddenly.
And testing negative for flu, and
but we got through that okay. But
except for you got cancer after that.
Well, yes, that's just a little. They found something lurking up the ass, but we seem to have coaxed it out, and touch wood's everything fine. I have my +2 tests coming up next week, which is
right on, man.
Fun stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a wrinkle, but you know, what I thought was, Jesus Christ, if you established a committee to form something that would be the perfect super spreader event, a horror convention might well be what you'd come up with. Let's get X thousand people, shoehorn them into a hotel for a weekend. Let's have them all shaking hands, hugging, exchanging money,
sweating,
handling merchandise, you know, standing hugger-mugger in the bars and the restaurants and all the rest of it, and not let them out for 3 days and see how that goes. But ordinarily, as Steph says, you know, I do all that, the shaking hands and the shaking hands with everybody who comes to my table. Ordinarily, I'm doing a polite little fist bump now.
Yeah.
And you're always being exposed to flu and colds. My worst enemy at conventions is air conditioning,
air
but that's
conditioning.
Oh yeah,
another
dude.
story I can't be doing with it. But I was going to say, talking of viruses, you have to wonder, do you not, what the fuck was in the water in Des Moines in the early 1970s? This place is not a vast, sprawling metropolis. It's what I did my homework.
Oh boy.
As of the 2020 census, population just over 200,000.
Right.
And out of this comes madness and mayhem. How does this concentrate in such a tiny area at almost exactly the same time?
Well,
Can't
I mean, it's
answer that.
quite the petri dish. Let's put it that way. I mean,
Right.
I mean, you just described it. I have always called it the smallest big city you will probably ever go to.
Okay.
And it's actually expanding population-wise because that's just the population for Des Moines itself, the
Okay.
greater Des Moines area. But there are so many outliers around it.
One night passing through. Seems
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. I know they've actually started to have conventions there. So yeah,
I think I was doing a speaking engagement at university. I think I called.
Oh, right on. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's several colleges there. So there's definitely a concentration of population there. As far as why we're all a little bent, probably because it's such a small place. And now it is vastly different than when I was growing up there. I mean, when I was, when we all were growing up there, it was such a creative and spiritual desert that, I mean, there was no modern music on the radio. There was no good CD shops, movie shops. There were no real venues, not only to play at, but to go see people play. There was really maybe 2 clubs and then the arena. So your choice was fish sometimes, like you didn't really have anything to do, so we grew up, nothing to do, nowhere to go. So we all became psychopaths. Basically, we were just creating our own fun. We were creating our own insanity. If we weren't driving in every direction to bigger cities like Chicago and Kansas City to find entertainment and stuff, we were stealing booze, doing all kinds of crazy shit out in the middle of a farm, like a cornfield, somewhere to stay away from prying eyes and whatnot. So yeah, we grew up nuts, man, and we were. It's because they didn't understand us that we started kind of pushing back on everything, So we all kind of grew up, even though we were separate, we all grew up in this really weird culture where the people involved with the original amalgamation, we were all looking for something that was in our heads, but we were hoping somebody else would do it. We were hoping that another band would make that music, so we could listen to it, And by the time we realized that nobody was going to do it but us, we had all found each other. And we started, if we weren't in the band yet, we were doing shows together. And we clicked, man. There was something about us that just understood that there was a void that could be filled creatively, artistically, musically, culturally. And nobody except psychos from Des Moines, Iowa would ever really be able to pull it off. So it was almost like the right place at the right time with the right group of people, man. Like we just.
Do you think the background of grunge, which is predating Slipknot by 4 or 5 years, do you think that kind of background was helping the idea that hey, we can just, it's because it was like the punk revolution
Right.
again.
Yeah.
The idea in the 70s, in the midst of progressive rock, you know, hey, we can just pick up instruments and do it. Even if we can't really play, we can play very fast and no one will notice. But, you know, that's that. I don't mean to, I'm not belittling it at all. But it was that explosion of the notion of fuck it, we'll do it.
Right.
That I think came round again with Nirvana and the bands coming out of the Seattle area.
Right. Yeah.
Would do you think that background was a kind of template that said to you, look, we can do this?
It definitely helped me, you know, especially from a songwriting point of view, you know, like before, you know, I was taking my cues from not only 70s punk, but 80s hard rock, you know, listening to stuff like that. Obviously, you know, all the heavy metal that had come out of that time, the hip hop that was coming out of New York and the West Coast and whatnot. I was absorbing all of that, but it wasn't until it was cool because in the late 80s is when it really started to kind of come on, and it wasn't even called grunge then. It was just called college radio. So we all started listening to like that. We would watch 120 Minutes on MTV, right?
I still have VHS tapes.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because you have to get up and go to school the next morning, and it was on from, was it 12 to 2 or something?
12 to 2. It was just like Headbangers Ball. So you had Headbangers Ball for heavy metal, but then you had 120 Minutes for like if you wanted to get your Cure and Smiths and Camper Von Beethoven like hook up and whatever.
You know, on YouTube there are entire shows.
Really? Oh,
I'm
definitely gonna go look those up.
Yeah. Playlists.
So that really kind of taught me how to a different way to write songs and stuff, and I took that and we kind of applied that to Slipknot, definitely, you know, because it was almost like a shirking of convention. Not only the fact that you've got 9 people trying to turn this collision into something that you can, you know, kind of dance to and whatever, but also trying to make something interesting. You know, it's like for me, our greatest strengths have always been the fact that we play to our strengths. Like Clown has a great ear for melody and art. I've always been the one that kind of puts everything and kind of tries to form it up into a song and whatnot. And we've all kind of been able to contribute to that over the years. So yeah, that 90s revolution definitely set the tone for the fact that we were just going to say, screw the rules. Let's just, you know, if you've got a hook, no matter what it is, whether it's something heavy or something, you know, a little creepy or something really melodic, give it to us and we'll turn a song into it, you know?
Yeah, I feel like those bands sort of gave people, I mean, much like Bowie did, and sort of gave people permission to be weirdos.
Right, yeah. Oh, and Bowie, I mean, you know, he wrote the book on it, you know? I mean, the thing that always bums me out when people talk about Bowie is the fact that they talk about the fact that he was chameleonic and whatnot, like he could blend into anything. But what people don't realize is that he was doing that stuff 5 years before anybody else was jumping in on that. Like he was so ahead of his time that you listen to it and we're like, wait a minute, no, everybody else is being a chameleon to him. You know, so he's always been one of my like biggest musical like heroes, you know.
I think this should be the point where you and Steph have a tattoo off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. It's such a great image. And I actually even have, I put the
nice.
Right,
I was thinking about that.
Cool.
It's I tell you what, it ties it all together. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Steph has "Turn and Face the Strange" written under her tattoo in my handwriting.
His handwriting.
Oh, that's cool. That's even better.
But I wanted to ask, because I love asking these questions, which is the points and the ways in which music first appears in your life. And I understand that we have something in common at this point, which is a grandparent and Jim Reeves.
Yeah.
My grandfather, I'm half Scottish on my mother's side, and we spent all my boyhood summers were spent up in Edinburgh. And my grandfather, who was a kind of very strong counterintuitive influence on my life. He was a Scottish Baptist minister of fundamentalist Calvinist persuasions.
Okay.
Nationalist and religious bigot of the first water. And he had a couple of Jim Reeves albums, only the spiritual stuff, the religious stuff. But I'd never heard him before, and I as a little boy, I fell deeply in love with Jim Reeves' voice, a love which I've never lost. I'm an unashamed country fan, but I gather Jim Reeves was also an early musical thing for you through your grandmother.
Yeah, definitely. My grandmother she would play the usual suspects, like she would play Elvis and Statler Brothers and stuff like that. But like in there, that tone, it's so funny you bring him up. Like Jim Reeves was almost like the caramel that kind of like fit everything together because his voice was so warm and yet deep. It's very hard to have a deep voice and have warmth to it.
Johnny Cash's voice is similar, I think.
Right, very much. But Johnny always had there was a certain gruffness to it. There was an edge. It was really the gravel before it hits the pavement. Like it was right.
Johnny was kind of the first punk. I always think Jim Reeves certainly was not that.
No. But it's that same timbre, that same like wavelength almost. But whereas Johnny was very almost like nonplussed and would just kind of do it, and he would keep it in tune, but for the most part, like you could feel where the story was. Jim was just a crooner, and it was just so pleasant to just sit and listen to him. He could sing the alphabet, and you would just be like, yep, this is the greatest song I've ever heard. And yeah, so that was really one of the first voices that I heard back then where I was just like, this is really pretty. Like he had such a beautiful voice.
Yes. And then what's the musical progression next from there? Is that like hearing Bowie and other stuff through the set?
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of stuff through my mom, obviously. My mom was listening to like unashamed listening to disco and a lot of like she had a handful of like 70s glam rock albums and stuff. So I got Bowie, which was kind of the the progenitor of that, but I also got Slade. I also got the Sweet, which to me they're so criminally underrated.
Sweet.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Like both of those bands are so great. And then that begat finding punk through babysitters, through people who would come over and watch me and my sister. They would put on the Pistols and the Damned and the Buzzcocks and the Stranglers and stuff like that. So I mean, I had the rainbow of it, And then it was the next stage, which was finding my own music, was the stuff that my friends were listening to in school. And that was everything from early hip hop to 80s glam to thrash to hardcore. Like there were so many people listening to so many different things at my junior high alone that it really took me in so many different directions that I found myself really getting into so many different elements of it. And that to me kind of set the tone for the fact that my musical taste is so all over the page. I've never limited myself to one genre. I've always cherry picked stuff from every genre if I can. And I try to find something that I can see in myself, no matter whether it's this or the newer generation of stuff.
Now, that fracturing of the musical landscape that you're describing, I think, and I went back and I listened to the first Slipknot album again during the week, and it struck me very much and I think it's more noticeable a way in that album how many different elements are coming into play.
Right.
And I was wondering how much that was accidental or just because individual members were bringing their own corner of their own piece of the jigsaw puzzle to the table, or was it happening accidentally or just by osmosis, or because
Right.
it feels that obviously the metal and hard rock elements are very present, but the singing is moving between metal and rap quite easily,
Right.
and freely. There seem to be a lot of hip hop elements and almost touches of funk, I feel, at times. Plus, you've got the electronica and the kind of found percussion elements that are going in on top, and the percussion is very strongly to the fore,
right,
in that first album. So how is that coming together? Is it deliberate, accidental, or just happy?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it really kind of had to do. I mean, obviously, we were kind of following a certain path that Korn had started. Obviously, I mean, they were one of the first real bands to kind of put that sound forward. Sepultura was definitely one of those bands that kind of were making waves, not just with Roots, but with Arise. There was definitely some stuff like, I mean, it was one of those things where it was almost like there was a perfect storm musically of all of these things that we were kind of influenced by, but nobody was doing them all at once, and nobody was doing them as intensely as we wanted to do it. Like, I can remember like having like all of these talks with everybody that when we were just like, there's nothing that is heavy enough to just make me want to run through a wall, like there were moments of it with certain bands, but they either wouldn't go far enough, or it was just one direction. It was only one lane, and we were looking at it. We weren't looking at it as a 2-lane, one way either way. We were looking at it as 8-lane blacktop. Let's just take everything and go for it. And there were some
there at 90 miles an hour and see what
happens.
happens.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, we were definitely trying to. I don't know if we were looking for a sound, but we were definitely trying to do something that we wanted to listen to. We wanted to do something that we wanted to listen to first and hoped that other people would want to hear it as well.
Seemed to work.
Yeah. And trust me, no one's more surprised by that than yours truly. Like, I am, to this day, I just look out and I go, all right, yeah, on paper, it doesn't work.
So, I mean, did you sort of have like a blueprint going in, or did you just all get together and just start, jamming and how it all?
I'd have to give a lot of credit to Clown, actually. Clown and Joey, Paul, the original, like the original catalyst was Clown and Paul. Mm-hmm. And they definitely had a vision of what they could do, which was then augmented by Joey and Mick. I joined actually about 2 years later. I joined 2 years after they'd started, because I was doing Stone Sour at the time. Mm-hmm. And they came to my place of work, which was a porn shop, working midnight to 8. And
nice. I have a note.
Trust me, it was.
I noted that you were working at the Adult Emporium.
Well, yes, I was.
Was that the name of it?
Yes.
That's a very boring name.
Oh yeah. Well, I used to call it the Walmart of porn, because it was very well lit. It was clean. Like, people could come in. This is also Iowa, so it wasn't like really, really gnarly, but some of the people that you saw were crazy.
Usually they have, catchy names.
Yeah.
We had downtown Pittsburgh,
romantic
Condemnation.
Condemnation.
Yeah.
That should be a heavy
That's
metal
good.
band, shouldn't it?
But anyway, I mean, there was definitely.
I have a note that they appeared in the Adult Emporium. And,
oh yeah, yeah.
Declared, gave you an ultimatum.
That's actually a lie.
The band
None of what you've read
you have said is bullshit.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. Like, I don't know who put that out there that they threatened to kick my ass if I didn't join the band, but it was such. I'm gonna rain on that parade right now. So I'm standing behind the counter, and it was a pretty big room, you know. They came in through a door, clear in the back, like over there. They came in, and I was kind of shocked. I was like, I never saw them out like hanging out and stuff, you know. I was just like, hey, how you doing? They did
they're coming to the pawn shop.
They did a full lap around the shop before they even came to the counter. Like, they're checking it. Oh, that's interesting. And I'm like, what's going on over here? You know.
Yeah.
They get to the counter. There's some pleasantries, and then they said, you know, listen, we're just going to get right to it. We want you to join our band. We want you to sing. And at the time, I was probably the best singer in town. So, and I loved Slipknot.
They had seen Stone Sour. We
had done shows together. We had all done shows together, man. So,
you were
hit me out of nowhere.
You were in the audience for the very first Slipknot gig, right?
Yes, I was. Yeah, April 5th, 1995.
Wow.
And it was something to behold. It was pretty crazy.
So how old would you have been then?
I was in 95. I was 22. Yeah, 22. And I'd been doing Stone Sour since 92. So I'd been already very much ensconced in the scene and kind of doing everything, you know. And I remember them coming out, and they walked through the audience. They pushed their way through the audience and climbed on stage, almost like in this crazy, like beast-like manner. Like, and we were just like,
is this in the barcoded red boiler suit?
No, this was before this was before the barcodes and the outfits. Back then, everybody kind of wore whatever they wanted. So it was a little more theatrical.
Imagine.
Yeah, it was. But then by the time I joined, I did two shows dressed like a priest for a little bit. And then we decided that the coveralls would actually lend itself to the vision for what we wanted, you know, because we had a very kind of cynical look about the way music was kind of portrayed and packaged and kind of sold to people. So we were like, okay, well, let's just turn ourselves into the commodity. Let's just turn ourselves into, you know, you want, you know, the style. Here's my work outfit. You know, you want our music, here, scan my barcode. This is, you know, this, you want my cheekbones. Here's my mask. This is what you get. So we were being counterculture while also promoting something that was very much a part of the culture.
Mm.
So was it a political thing as much as a theatrical thing, or a bit of both, to present the kind of
probably? I mean, I'd say socio-political. I mean, it wasn't so much
and the barcodes making you
right
commodified items to be scanned and rung up at the checkout.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that barcode is actually the barcode to our very first CD. So you can scan it. Like you could, you got a big enough scanner, you could bing, and then done. Yeah, it was pretty rad.
Very cool.
That's amazing.
There you go.
That's
There's a
amazing.
question. How come Doug hasn't sung on any Slipknot albums yet?
Oh, well, I mean,
fucking asked him.
This is our formal audition right now.
Lots of people talking about Walmart and saying my Walmart's not clean.
Apparently, because the one near me is spotless.
Walmart actually started to keep itself clean. How about that?
No, but remember, it is the Walmart of porn stores.
Of porn, that's right.
Go and check out your porn emporiums. I read Porn Emporium and I think of Monty Python's Cheese Emporium.
Cheese Emporium.
Oh yes,
the cheese shop that doesn't have any cheese in it. So I imagine
not a drop
in a porn shop that has no, you know. Do you have Anal Sluts 3?
Nope. I was going to say part 2. I think
you were?
You
prefer
You're
part
reading
2.
my mind.
That's because 3 answered so many questions from
It
2.
did.
You know, like it really, you know.
Cliffhanger, that anal
Yeah, yeah. What a cliffhanger!
Resolved a lot of storylines that were kind of hanging in the air.
We should cancel.
We should
Getting
move on
canceled.
from the anal.
Yeah.
I think possibly.
It's our first strike on YouTube.
So I want you know, by the way, that I'm sure you do, that Des Moines means river of monks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
There was a fort there that is actually, the remnants are still pretty visible there. That was run by French trackers and French trappers, excuse me. And there, I believe they brought a congregation of monks with them from France, and they were the ones that named it, because I guess what would you call that? Let's just say the church, whatever. Like it was right there on the river. So yeah, so they named it after the monks that were there.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool.
I wanted to move on to talk about the theatricality and obviously the masks, because it's something that that we have in common.
Right.
And of course, one of the first reasons that Slipknot came to my attention was that a couple of friends started saying to me, have you seen Slipknot? At the time, I had not seen Slipknot. I had not slipped. And I was saying, no, why? We just find an image and take a look. So there's obviously, I think it's Craig's mask, Craig Jones's mask,
right,
which would appear at first glance to be somewhat influenced.
Oh, definitely. Well, now having said that,
distressingly, the nails are inverted. That was the thing that always bothered me. The nails are coming from the inside out.
Right. Well, okay, full disclosure, we found that in a porn shop. So every iteration of this mask has been kind of coming from that porn shop era, you know. And it wasn't the Des Moines one.
With the nails
in LA.
You found the Gimp mask in a
it was a Gimp mask with nails in it, actually.
Oh wow! Oh my!
Yeah. So it was I mean, it was pretty crazy. The nails were pretty short at first, but then as time's gone on, he's remade it so many times, and the nails have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
And fewer in number, and then they kind of exploded again. And
yeah, exactly. Like I know Clown has an idea for something with his nails that I don't think Craig's gonna go for. Like nope, no, not doing that.
We'll watch this space.
It's kind of troubling that a mask like that would be like sold in a store, which means there are several of them, and they are something that is in demand.
So there'd probably be.
It was God. What was the name? We found it at a porn shop on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. So I can't remember. I can never remember the name.
Explains everything.
It's
Right. Yeah.
Now
be doing some Googling.
But at what point is the decision to be masked as a band?
That was something that was already in place when I joined, actually. And it was one of the cool things about Slipknot when I first saw them when they walked on stage. I mean, nobody knew anything about them, to be honest, and we were just like. So at first we didn't realize who was who until you actually really like watched them, and if you knew everybody in the band because we were all in the scene together, you started to feel it out, and you're like, oh, okay, that's Clown, that's Sean, that's Mick. Right. But for the most part, man, like sometimes there was just like, who are these people? You know.
And was that impetus collective, or was it coming from Sean, from Clown, or in fact he was Picky before he was Clown, right?
Well, no, that was
oh God,
that was Paul. Paul was
he had many of you. It's hard to keep hard to keep up.
That was Clown's actually the one he's the one that provided the seed for the masks actually being worn. He has his infamous clown mask with the orange hair and whatnot. Yeah, was something that he had when he was a kid. And he kept it from when he was, I want to say he was a teenager or whatever. And he always had it, so it was just always with him. And when they were rehearsing, he one night, this is according to lore, this is according to what he has told me, he went up and got his mask and put it on during rehearsal, and it annoyed everybody at first, but then they started to kind of get into it. They thought it was actually pretty cool. So then I want to say it was Joey went and got the porcelain mask that he actually wore, the mannequin mask, I guess. And then everybody else, it kind of was like almost like a domino effect. So by the time I joined, I tried to do something with like liquid latex on my face, and it didn't work. So they helped me craft my mask after the fashion, you know. And so we decided that from that point on, everyone would have a mask. Everyone would wear a mask, and we wanted it to represent something for us. You know, we wanted it to represent something that, you know, was a part of us in the music.
Now, what Craig's mask, apart from the nails going and
Right.
has not basically changed a great deal, but your mask has evolved a lot as it's gone along. And I wondered to what extent that was partly practical, because obviously there's an issue for people playing instruments,
Right.
when you're wearing masks that seem to reduce your visibility, you know.
Right.
You need to be able to see the fucking guitar to play it, you know.
Yeah.
You don't have that issue, but you need to be able to open your mouth and breathe easily,
Right.
and I and hear and so forth. And I wonder about the collision between wanting to present the dramatic,
Right.
unsettling, strange image, and not compromising your ability to perform.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the balance. It's the one thing that I've kind of tried to kind of have one foot on each side in the creative and in the pragmatic. Mine has that's not the reason when it's changed, but it's definitely something that I've thought about while changing it. I mean, the reason my masks change for me is because I'm never the same person recording each album. Like, we all evolve, we all go through our own little brief spurts of life in between gigs and whatnot. And for me, the mask has always been a reflection of who I am on that album. Whether it's you know, what we call the football mask, which was Volume 3, which had the big scab. To me, that represented scabbing and healing and whatnot. And then
that feels to me as though that's Frankenstein influence.
A little bit, yeah. Is definitely, you know, playing around with the aesthetic is the fun part, you know, like being able to kind of, you know, get excited. It's like, oh, I wonder what the new one's going to look like, you know, like what am I going to do this time around, you know? But the pragmatic part of it is, I mean, we've had to do masks that can incorporate in-ear monitors to make sure that, you know, they stay in and whatnot. I've had to make sure that you know, you talk about breathing and stuff, but you have to make sure I can get the mic to my mouth, because sometimes the masks that I create are too thick. So the front of it comes off about like that, and I can't get the mic to my mouth. So it just, yeah.
Sometimes the masks seem to have nothing here, which obviously is allowing you complete freedom of movement.
Right. Yeah. And that's usually because there's a gap on the inside.
To be able to get that mouth open, you can't compromise the singing in any ways. But there are others that seem to me, I was trying to scribble, I've written so many notes down about this because I got increasingly fascinated by it all, that the featureless round-eyed mask, which I guess is All Hope Is Gone period, looks very rigid, whereas some of the others look very loose. And then for 0.5, it looks almost like a double mask.
Yeah,
sometimes it's mainly just a chin piece, and it's more makeup.
Yeah, and there was a piece that I had a strap that would hold on, and then I would pull it off during the set to reveal another mask underneath. Like, I've been able to really play around with some of those kind of ideas, you know, like to look at somebody as multi-layered, you know, and yeah.
I was aware because my Pinhead was foam latex.
Right.
And in the first version, it stopped here. Later versions were able to come right up and actually be glued onto my lip.
Oh, right.
And then the top was always here, and initially there was a join coming back here.
Right.
It although I was only talking and not having to sing for X thousand people, it restricted my natural movement of my mouth.
Right.
To speak. I got to ADR all my lines later in the studio without the mask, but I often thought it would have been more interesting if I'd kept the original version, because it did kind of make me come from the back of my throat more.
Right.
That's get into voice production, but it's partly an English and American thing. English people speak very much from the front of their mouths.
Right.
Whereas Americans speak very much down from the throat.
Oh, right in this area here. Yeah.
They produce that kind of voice.
Right.
Where English people speak up here. And it's not just a pitch thing. It's we enunciate at the front of our mouth. It's all tongue and teeth, darling, tongue and teeth. Whereas Americans, you know.
You think that's because of the accent? You think that's maybe because of like the way you pronounce, or?
I don't. I'm always fascinated by it, but I think part of the thing with Americans is relaxation.
Yeah.
It just
they were definitely relaxed.
Everything falls back and it sits back and it relaxes, man. And it says, hey, you know, come on, you know, get a beer, light a spliff,
I love
a load off, fucking relax. Right. English people aren't like that at all.
Uptight,
they're always, you know, Steph's description of is always the rod up the ass. But it is that front of mouth.
But you're not. That's not what I think of you, though.
I'm somewhere betwixt and between, and that's partly because I'm from Liverpool,
right,
which has big Irish influence in it, and it's that it's very much that Dublin accent, you know. If you go to, and it's kind of like if you take that Dublin Irish accent, that one, you know,
right,
and you stick it up in your mouth, like, you know, you bring it up out of your throat like that, and you stick it up in your mouth there like that, then you get the Liverpool accent. But what you notice in the Liverpool accent is you get all the soft T's.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which comes directly in from there. But the Liverpool accent is a crazy thing. And then in Cockney, they try and do away with consonants altogether. You know, so talk like this. You know what I mean? You know,
yeah.
It's all right. You know what I mean? Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. You all right? Yeah, I'm all right. You all right? Yeah. Anyway, how did we get here?
You said light a spliff, and now someone's accusing you of being
promoting drug use. I do
not promoting drug use. Pinhead,
heaven forfend.
Pinhead's a puffer. They're saying no,
he's not. Not because he has anything against marijuana. He doesn't at all. He would be a very enthusiastic partaker.
If he can turn into a paranoid lunatic.
Marijuana does not like me, and I therefore stick to the beer and the wine, the whiskey and the vodka, anyway. But not in large quantities, ladies and gentlemen. Not in large quantities. A glass of wine with dinner how the hell did we get here
We
from?
were
I
talking
don't
about
know. We kind of went on a tangent. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good though. I liked it.
performing, speaking with masks, and
Singing.
things,
Oh, that's it. Right.
obstructing your
Yes.
face
Right.
and mouth.
Uh,
I have a question though. I mean, I hate to put labels on anything, but I mean, do you consider yourself a metal band? Are you considered a metal band?
Yeah. No,
You sort of-
absolutely.
sort
I
of,
mean, you know,
have a foot in different.
yeah. I mean, we dabble obviously, and we throw our weird alchemy together, and it just kind of happens, you know. But I think in our spirit, we've always been a metal band, you know. Like,
so the thing you or I most associate with metal is the screaming, is the aggression, is the
Right.
shouting and screaming and growling. And do you feel like the mask, with wearing the mask sometimes, is it that sort of, gets in the way of not necessarily just, projecting, but also the emotionality, of your face, of your expressions when you're
uh,
putting forth vocals like that?
that's a good question. No, because it's as much as it hides like this, that makes us have to manifest physically
Right.
and
Use
really
your
be
body,
so
use your body
demonstrative.
more, right?
Absolutely. So
Which was my next
when we're doing something, we're throwing
Right.
everything that we have into it. Like it's all I usually call it's all assholes and elbows. You know, it's just just going for it. You know, and for me, I always, again, back on the pragmatic, I've really tried to make sure that each mask allows me to do it whether I'm wearing it or not, you know? So it's quite important to make sure that, you're able to, because I mean, you could have the most bitchin' mask on the planet, and if you're not able to kind of do what you do on stage, then it doesn't work.
Right.
and make the performance come through the mask.
Well, and that would be where, where
Yeah.
you were very limited in your movements with your face and your body because of your makeup and your costume. I mean, you sort of portrayed your
The costume-
emotionality in a different way.
The costume limited me physically, which very much fed into actually to the characterization. I talked about this quite a lot, that actually the limits of the costume, because it was made out of serious aviators leather, so
Oh, yeah.
it didn't flex easily.
Right.
So if I'm pointing at something, I couldn't just do that. I had to very slowly and deliberately raise the whole of my arm, which is much more menacing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I mean, it's the
and
the dark stoicism of it that
And
really makes it
it's-
look
the
right.
collar is a serious bit of collar. I have no
Right.
option but to hold my head up here, because
Right.
collar's not letting me do anything else. So that, and learning to walk with a full-length skirt on without tripping over it. Back to the pragmatic again.
Right, exactly.
I actually for my first scene had my skirt was rolled up and held in place with clothes pegs, because I was tripping over it.
Oh, right, yeah.
I learned to do a kind of slow shuffle of moving one foot forward and kicking the skirt out of the way so that my foot could land without landing on skirt.
So the costumes you have done, they're a little more conducive to the over exaggerated body movements then, I would.
Yeah, definitely now. Yeah. Before, as much as I loved the coveralls, I always felt so constricted. Like I always because I'm very, I'm all arms, and the coveralls would always pull up in the back, and so for me, mine would always rip right up the back. Like I was just like, I can't have anything nice, this is stupid. So as soon as we started experimenting with our outfits, which started on volume 3, I immediately went to a 2-piece because I can move in it, as long as we just have the uniform look, I'm fine with that. It's just, but for me, from a movement standpoint, it just always feels so much more free when it's a shirt and pants and not, obviously the boiler suit. So it's allowed me to be more of myself on stage. And every once in a while when we do like a throwback show and we're all in the coveralls, I'm always reminded of like I'll do something and it'll catch, and I'm just like I can't tell you how many times I've caught my thumb on the pocket of the jumpsuit because I've got the mic right here and I usually sing like this and I'll go like that and I've actually had it bend back on me and I'm like like on stage and like luckily the mask is on. Nobody knows that I just messed myself up. But yeah, it gets to be kind of trippy.
That look of alarm that just spread across your face is not visible. So that's
exactly. It's like everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yes. A lot of people keep asking if you're, this doesn't go along with the subject, but I've seen it asked quite a few times, if you have plans to do another book.
Yeah, man. A lot of people have been asking me about it. I kind of put a pause on the books about 5 years ago because that one almost killed me. It was just such a gnarly experience. But I'm actually getting the itch to do another one again, and not just another one, but like another fun.
When you say that one, because
that would be America 51. That was
okay.
Yeah, it was very political, and I won't bore anybody with my partisan crap, but it was, it was just the lamentations of somebody who could see that we were in for, a very long 4 years, So okay. When I wrote that, it was definitely something I needed to say. And I was like, you know what? I'm never doing another politics book ever again. I don't even care.
Sure.
But it also woke me out.
Yes.
Well,
but you're a man of trenchant opinions and not afraid to voice them, it seems to me, which I...
Well, and it's like,
if
I'm going to do that...
They're completely clear of it as to not risk, losing fans.
But I think it's so... But then they get so bent out of shape when people think that they're fake or they're two-dimensional. It's like, well, if you acted like yourself, maybe people would get a chance to get to know you and they would see that you're a three-dimensional person, Yep. It's this lambastic white bread bullshit that keeps people from, enjoying what they do, and early on I said, I don't care if it gets me in trouble. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm not going to be a jerk. Well, okay, I was a jerk a handful of times. I can definitely say that, but I'm not going to censor myself, like if I have an opinion about something, I'm going to say it. And I think people find that refreshing. I know it annoys some people, but at the same time, they're like, at least you're going to get exactly what I think and not some,
It's important that we move back to a place where you can voice your opinions.
Exactly.
And I can hear your opinions and I can disagree with your opinions. And I can say that I disagree with your opinions and I can give my counter opinion. I mean, I'm not saying that I personally disagree with your opinion.
Right. No, I totally get it. Yeah.
So, I suspect we're probably on the same page, but that's by the by. PJ O'Rourke just died.
Just passed, yeah.
And his politics were not my politics, but I would read everything he wrote because he was fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
he's a brilliant writer.
Yeah.
I have a collection of his short essays. One of which I'm going to paraphrase, but it's called something like how to drive really fast on drugs while getting your wiener sucked without spilling your beer.
That's something like that.
Good trick if you can do it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's called intelligent discourse, the ability to be able to sit down with people and discuss in a calm and rational way, different, opinions and thoughts.
Yeah.
And it just seems like we do not
And disagree with the
have that
opinion
anymore.
without having to launch an ad hominem attack on
I'm
somebody.
canceling you.
You're
Right.
an
Yeah.
asshole because you believe that. Well,
I mean, people
as long as
forget.
you can articulate why you believe that, then you're not an asshole. Was it Dr. Johnson? I think I keep quoting this at the moment, who said, "I may disagree with every single word you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it."
I think that's attributed to a lot of people,
Is
including
it?
Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who I thought it was. I mean, it could have been
everything.
He did.
It could have been Jefferson too. You know,
well,
yeah.
Variations on a theme. I think a lot of people
Right.
probably say. I think in England we tend to give it to Dr. Johnson.
Right.
So possibly a new book.
Because you Americans
you're feeling
possibly be intelligent enough to come up with that.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm definitely threatening to. So
the book I wanted to mention, and I've heard or I read that you don't especially like to talk about this. So if you don't, then say so, and that's fine. But I was unaware of the existence of this, and I've just ordered it. We rub into the paranormal on the show, and we've had hunter guests.
Oh, somebody did ask that if we would all ever do a ghost hunt together.
Oh, well, we're thinking about doing a live show if we can get the technology right. Doing a live show when the weather warms up from Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. But I wanted to ask you about a funny thing happened on the way to heaven, which I know you say that you had supernatural experiences as a boy, and then some of that feeds into when you were making, I think, the third album.
That was definitely a confluence of holy shit.
I think you and I are to some extent on the same page here, and Steph as well, because stuff that happens that's real and incontrovertible, but we are both atheists, so we don't necessarily plant it at the door of proof of heaven or hell or life after death.
Right. And that's why I wrote the book. I was the same way. Like I don't buy into religion. I don't buy into any of that stuff. And yet these things were happening. And I was seeing it, I was experiencing it, and I was like, well, what is this? You know? And so to me, the book was my way of kind of doing my own research and trying to figure it out and really trying to get a better grasp of what that energy is, you know, like how could this, you know, how does this energy not only, you know, hang, because we all know there are bundles of energy everywhere, you know, not necessarily, you know, bundles of souls, but there are just pockets of energy all over the planet, you know, that manifest and coalesce because they're attracted to one another, and they just kind of float through our lives. So to me, it's like I got that concept, but what makes this bundle of energy reactive? Why is there a perceived conscious, or not conscious, but just a level of sentient thought there that can not only react to what I'm doing, but also react to the things around it, you know? So that kind of took me down like a couple of different weird roads that then led me finally to what I called the intelligent energy theory. And from there, I was able to just kind of, you know, not only work that into telling stories about, you know, the things that I had experienced, not only when I was growing up, but just through my life, but to kind of make sense of it and understand that maybe it's not that I'm a haunted person. Maybe it's because my energy is attractive to certain bundles of energy. And once they get motivated and stimulated, they will act out and they will make themselves known. So it was, to me, and I think it helped a lot of people kind of figure that out, because a lot of people were, you know, because they were atheists, they were a little hesitant to maybe even talk about stuff like this, but it helped get a conversation going.
And was that very much brought into focus by experiences while you were in the mansion making the third album?
It was definitely something I was like, someday I'm going to put this in a book. Like I definitely got to talk about this because it was so much.
Was it
But there
was
were
it
so many.
aural or physical objects moving around, or how was whatever it was manifesting?
Oh, it was. I mean, there were different. There were physical manifestations. There was also a lot of weirdness going on with certain electronics in the rooms.
Hmm.
There were audible manifestations that were going on. And it wasn't just me. There was some of the guys in the band were experiencing things as well. They were seeing things walk through their rooms into rooms that didn't exist.
You'd have been minus a band member.
Gotta go.
See ya.
Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah, it was a lot. It was very intense.
And did the mansion have a reputation prior to you being there and subsequently, or was
It was definitely
you guys?
No, well, I mean, we didn't help matters. I tell you that much.
Pissing them off, probably.
A lot of the bands who recorded there, going way back, going to back into like the 80s, had talked about things going on in that place.
Huh.
So by the time we got there, it was very well documented. Like it was a lot. There was so much available to kind of look at, and we were like, okay, well maybe we'll see something, but we had no idea that we would experience things like that.
Well, I think that book is arriving in the mail tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Great.
Please let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know.
I will do.
I'll make him read it out loud to me. He reads books out loud.
Oh, there you go.
Well, no, I'm really fascinated to read that, and struck me that you mentioned disembodied voices, but it's very much a feature of Slipknot, particularly again early on, that there's kind of whisperings and
yeah,
that you can't quite pin down going on, and you actually freaked me out. I can't remember. You might remember. You may very well not, but I think it's either the second or the third album. There's a track that starts with a buzzing, like of a bee or something. It's very prominent, and I have a
Oh, you thought it was a wasp?
I have a great phobia of buzzing things, wasps in general, but things that buzz around you that you can't see, large bees. There are some fucking big bees in this country. When it gets warm at the beginning of you've seen them around the back of our house.
From here,
they're like the size of your fucking fist.
Yeah.
When it first gets warm here, I like to go and sit out at the back, with a book and a coffee in the morning, and hike up my vitamin D in the sun. And this thing appears in front of me, right in front of my face, staring at me, going, "Fuck off! We're here."
Killer bees are next.
Which kind of. But this is very prominent at the beginning. I'll try and track down which track it was. I knew.
There's a song. I'm trying to think because I know which one you're talking about. And I'm
sitting there in my lazy boy, minding my own business, listening to. I've got my AirPods in, and this noise was coming from up and over here somewhere, and I'm sitting there going, "What the fuck? What is that? And why is it doing it in March, and when it's fucking cold? And how did it get in here?" And, oh, wait.
Oh my god.
Well, we do have stink bugs, and they're very loud. Do you have stink bugs in Nevada?
In Iowa, we had them.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you could hear them in every direction. Like they're as bad as cicadas, for God's sake.
You had that one year when you were inundated.
Yes, it was very nasty. Very nasty. It was
They
sucking them up with the
come down
fucking
with-
vacuum cleaner hose. It was that bad.
But I love that with Slipknot stuff. I love the disembodied voices and the whisperings, and
That's definitely something we like to play with, is that dissonance, that the auditory, just playing with it. And a lot of that honestly comes from Clown, man. Like he
Right.
has such a great ear for visuals. I don't know if that makes any sense, but he has such a great, I mean, he's an incredible artist anyway.
Mm.
His ear, when it comes to painting with sound, is so
funny.
rad.
I was just gonna say your music is very like if you were to talk about it in the sense of a painting, it's very much mixed media. You know what I mean? It's
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's acrylics and oil and wax and stain and graphite and clay. I mean, sort of everything that you can, you know, throw in. Much like my artwork, I sort of anything I can get my hands on, I will use.
Right.
And
if it makes sense in it, then
yeah, and you
do
make
it. Absolutely,
you make complete sense out of so many different elements. You know.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff like that on the new album. Actually, there's such a lush kind of. It's weird because we're doing it in a way that, to me anyway, that we've never done it before.
I was going to say lush is not. It's not a word that springs to mind.
Right.
Generally, but one of my favorite tracks is Iowa.
Oh yeah.
Off the second album, it stands out, and I don't think you've kind of revisited that kind of musical landscape too much, but I really like it.
It's that song was originally called Killers Are Quiet, and it was a song that I actually ended up rewriting the lyrics to. And
it's barely a song. It's like an
art piece.
soundscape.
I mean, it really is. Yeah, you can't call it a song. And we've played it live exactly twice. And you know, if you can imagine the reaction, that's pretty much exactly what we got. Was just you can't dance, can't slam, can't headbang. You're just kind of caught in this lull, you know, like it's crazy. It's, you know, it's something that we had done a song like that on the first album called Scissors. And as we kind of maneuvered musically through I guess the evolution of the band, you know, once we started to kind of get, like, once we got to volume 3, we were trying to paint with more melody. So the darker stuff, like that tune, became a little more hinged. It was a little more pulled in, because there's a song on there called Virus of Life that kind of has that vibe to it, that we had a lot of fun playing with, but it wasn't nearly as dark and dangerous and haunting as Iowa was. And that song,
put me in mind of a little bit of Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Yes, yeah, definitely, man. That band,
that kind of slow build. What you travel with it almost without realizing that you're going anywhere, and suddenly you know several minutes have gone by. Especially Godspeed You, you know.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, they'll milk an idea, and you know, it's bands like that, bands like Neurosis. You know, they've definitely had an influence on us. You know, like that, almost like that kind of Sleep, like a band like Sleep, man. They drone and it just kind of takes you somewhere, and you don't know if you're going to come back or
not. You have a very lovely singing voice.
Well, thank you, Doug.
Not at all. Now I have, because I confess I missed it, but I've just been starting to listen to CMFT.
Ah, yeah.
I think we can pretty much work out what CMFT might stand for.
Certified Marriage and Family Therapist.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, then, is it?
Well, it is to some people, not for my album, but you know.
It's not Sorry Motherfucker Taylor.
Well, of course it is. There it is.
No, I prefer the other. Certified Marriage and Family
Therapist.
Yeah. I think you should be.
Somebody Googled it to make sure that we could use it for the album, and that came up, and I was just like, I'm going to tell everybody that that's what it means.
That's what it is. Well, I think this should be your next career path.
Oh, I can see that going down a treat. That'd be great.
But I'm really enjoying the album. Really enjoying it.
Well, thank you.
Is that something that's been building for a while? You seem like a restless spirit.
I'm
kinda... remarkably, given that Stone Sour, as you said, was in existence before Slipknot, and you've never let that go. You've continued to do Stone Sour through the years with Slipknot, and I mean you worked with Korn, right? And you've worked with a number of other bands. And was the solo stuff always nagging away at you?
It was just something that I was always getting asked about, because I was more than happy to just have the two bands, and kind of do my thing. And then, if anything different came up, it was usually, guest spots on people's songs and stuff. But the more it came up, the more I started thinking, like, what would it sound like? Because I wouldn't want it to sound like either Slipknot or Stone Sour, because there's no reason to do it if it's going to sound like that.
Make it a Slipknot album if it's going to be
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, man. I mean, I'm just a guy who I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly writing, whether it's lyrics or music for Slipknot or Stone Sour, or just writing songs on my own. I'm constantly writing. And
there's one Stone Sour track, and again, God, I'm terrible at remembering titles of things, but it's effectively it's like it's an extended poem.
It's Omega.
Right, and you're kind of shouting at yourself during it, because it's like the Slipknot voice appears, and you're saying "fuck off, shut up," and then you carry on with this very reflective and introspective poem. Again, has poetry been something that you've...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially not only just poetry, but spoken word stuff, like I grew up like reading everything from Hunter S. Thompson to Kerouac and that was definitely an influence for me as far as like the spoken word stuff, because I could sit and listen to Kerouac read his books all day long, because he knows the punctuation. He knows how the inflection goes, like listening to him read the last little bits of On the Road while Steve Allen was playing piano, like, is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. And it's definitely a song unto itself, but it's the way it's like, I think about, just the way he does it. And that's what inspired me. He and actually Ani DeFranco are both two of my like all-time favorite when it comes to spoken word and just the poignancy of it. Those two definitely together are like biggest influences for that. I haven't had a chance to do it lately, but it's definitely something I would love to kind of come back to.
Cool, please do. I enjoyed that a lot. Did lockdown focus you on a solo album? Did that kind of feed into that?
It allowed me to do it a lot faster. Let's put it that way. Because we were still in the middle of a Slipknot tour. We had only done about 9 months, and it was like, okay, well now what? So I got really bored after a month of not doing anything, and I called my solo band and I was just like, okay, I think we're gonna, because I was gonna do it about a year before or a year after I actually went in and recorded it. And we were all rehearsed. We were all ready to go. And I just called everybody and said, well, you know what? If we can quarantine, we can do it. Everybody can stay at my house. Let's just go do it. And luckily there was a studio in town that we could do it at.
Cool. Well, congratulations on it. I'm
Thank you.
Enjoying it a great deal.
Do we want to touch on some horror stuff?
Sure.
We interviewed Mike Schiff, not Shift. Why did I say Shift? Mike Schiff, who made the history of horror and metal
Right,
documentary.
right, yeah.
And it was funny because somebody left a comment, which they subsequently deleted when I answered them, on Facebook, putting a little promo of you and Doug together. And
Yeah.
someone says, what does one have to do with the other? You're trying too hard. Like, the promoters are trying too hard. He's like, well, there's no promoters, just us. Interestingly enough, Corey is one of the people being interviewed in the history of horror and metal documentary.
Right, yeah.
So, there's huge connections there. And how much would you say that horror has played into your music?
Oh, I mean,
as an initial influence?
Definitely. I mean, I would probably say that just the sense of tone, the sense of dread that we use in some of our songs and whatnot, like definitely the atmosphere. I mean, you can feel the atmosphere in with the darker Slipknot songs, definitely harkens back to so many of the movies that we grew up watching, especially the song, like the movies where the music really moves the scene. I mean, you look at Carpenter and
I was going to say, I think you've instanced Halloween specifically.
Yeah. That music is probably the first music I can remember hearing and remembering from a horror movie, besides Jaws, obviously. I mean, that's just so iconic, that like everybody hears that. But with Carpenter, that it's so rhythmic and it's so right on it, and it's just it's the way he hits you with certain weird noises every once in a while where you're just like, I could sit and just listen to this, like this is so good that, yeah, there's definitely a connection. And especially the way that people look at heavy metal and the way they look at horror, and when you're a fan of both, you're going to get ostracized in a certain way, and you're going to be made to feel like you don't fit in, which, I mean,
or you're bad. You're obviously an evil person. You enjoy horror and loud, aggressive music. So you're obviously a weirdo and a freak and a troublemaker and a bad person.
Which, there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time,
that's eased up. That's eased up as time has gone on. I mean, I don't think people are looked at in quite the same way. As when we, say when school shootings started. But when that sort of when that terminology sort of came about, the metal people got blamed, and right off the bat, and I don't think that happens that much anymore.
With the backmasking and the satanic panic, and then Marilyn got dragged over the coals around Columbine because of Lunchbox. So I mean, it's always been an easy target. Do you think that's changing? As I think
it
horror has become more mainstream.
I would
say everyone's a horror fan now. I don't think everyone's necessarily a heavy metal fan, but because what I've always said about that is, you didn't hear metal on the radio. It's a genre that's very much been kept alive by the fans.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the same way now.
It's becoming more mainstream and more accepted now. Is it?
Well, what I meant was the fans keep us where it is. I don't think it'll ever truly be mainstream. I mean, there'll be some popular movies that kind of popped in and out. I'm sure there'll be popular songs and whatnot, but it will never truly go away now, just for the fact that because of the internet and whatnot, there's a way for that fan base to coalesce and become more of a foundation. The connection.
Well, I think it's happened with the movies in a way that it can't happen with the music, and part of that has been the very conscious and deliberate drive to move horror movies from R rated to 12
Right.
Because they want to get the kids buying the merchandise.
Yeah.
So they don't want to exclude them from the cinema.
Right.
And that's meant a lot, I think, in terms of an increasing conservatism with a small c in horror films.
It has become
It's not going to
safer.
happen with metal, though. You
No.
can't, because you can Telly's an actor. You can stick an explicit sticker on there. Try that after several beers. Stick an explicit sticker on the CD cover or the vinyl cover. You can do that, but you can't force the content to water itself down.
Right.
It doesn't want to be watered down.
Yeah.
Whereas movie producers have that power to say, you're not putting that scene in, you're not putting that dialogue in, you're not putting that moment in, etc.
Yeah, horror is definitely not as dangerous as it was. It's not as inventive as it was. It's a lot more acceptable to look like a weirdo now than it was before. And
Right. No, you're not wrong. But I think there's room for a resurgence in like some diabolical shit, so we'll definitely see.
Right. I hope so. And certainly the nature of the beast with metal is that if anybody tries to contain it over here,
right,
it's going to pop up over here saying,
yeah, exactly. But I mean, you could say that about so many explosive genres. There's so many, once something explodes, or it kind of happened with punk, where punk really exploded, and then they tried to calm it down so they could make it more for the masses, and then metal started, so it was like, when they try to meddle, and I mean meddle, when they try to meddle in that, the fans go somewhere else and promote the thing that's actually bringing it out of them.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, coming back to Slipknot, I know you're just off the road.
Yeah.
And in not too long days, I think you're back on the road, right?
Yeah. I'm going. Our first show is March 16th in Fargo, North Dakota. So yeah, so a couple of weeks, or like week and a half, something like that.
And then I noticed you're up and down and all over the country, not coming to Pittsburgh, damn you. But
we came last time though, so maybe the next leg we'll definitely be able to get over there. Yeah.
And you finish up, I think, in Mexico in June, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
And then I noticed you've got a little while off, and then you're starting the world leg of the tour. And I noticed July 15th, Moscow, July 17th, Kiev.
Wow.
And I thought possibly under consideration.
Yeah, that's to be determined. So looking like we're probably going to have to take those down. Obviously, until everything changes, it's unfortunate. And I actually posted a video yesterday, sending support to our fans and the people in Ukraine.
Sure.
Just to make sure that people know, that we're watching, just in case they feel alone, they're not alone. We want everything possible to kind of go their way.
And the fans in Russia, importantly, too.
Right.
This shit is not their fault.
It's not at all.
Sure, most of
it was one of the things
not happening.
We wanted to make sure that they knew, that we don't blame them. Like we're not, and I'm not going to continue to blame them. This has everything to do with
demonize a whole country because of
exactly.
And
that's how this whole thing started in the first place.
Yeah. Cool. And then that winds on through the summer. You're Hither and Ron. Hither and Ron. Who's Hither and Ron?
I don't know them.
You're through Europe, of course. I think you finish up in Japan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, how long will you be gone? Like on tour?
That run I think is about 5 weeks.
Wow.
And then we'll come home for a little bit. We'll shoot over to Southeast Asia. We'll hit that. We'll come back, maybe do another leg in America, and then it's just kind of seeing what's up, like, you know, because technically this would be the second half of the leg that we did with the last album, but we are dropping the new album soon. So
Right.
I don't know. It all kind of
Did you
comes
hear that, ladies and gentlemen? I think the man said we're dropping the new album very soon.
Yes.
Is there a hard date on that, or?
We don't have a hard date yet because we're lazy and we're still mixing the damn thing. So
Right.
I can't say it's completely recorded. And we're about halfway through mixing it. So to me, I would say probably 2 to 3 months. That's my ballpark. I'm hoping I'm going to push to get it out then.
Yeah, March, so April, May, June.
Maybe a summer. Yeah, maybe summertime sometime.
Cool.
Okay.
Any more conventions
Fantastic.
on the horizon?
It's a good
Here?
question. Oh, I'm doing one in April. God, I have to look. Hold on. Let me look.
Nashville. Nashville?
Hold on 1 second. Astronomicon, April 23rd and 24th.
Oh, that's in Texas.
Right.
Right.
So I'm doing that. Actually, a week after I get back from being on the road, I get home. I get to be with the kids.
Like, sit down, chill for a bit.
No, I'm
talk to people.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
That's me the day after a convention. I just
goes completely
I
quiet.
just stare at walls and don't say anything.
Oh yeah, you've completely peopled yourself out. You're just like,
that was weird getting back into it after all those months. It was like kind of I forget how to do this.
Yes.
Right.
Be social.
Packing the stuff up. Normally it kind of does itself. I'm out going around in circles saying, what do I need?
Yeah, I felt
what do I take to a convention? How do I do this?
Very discombobulated all weekend.
Yeah.
Really was.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few coming up down the line. Hopefully, and I feel more optimistic that we're at least getting to the point with this thing that it's endemic, not
right.
endemic.
Right. Which we can handle that. Nobody has to go back into the cave.
I think we have to. It's
until the next.
You don't beat these things; they don't go away. You just have to find a way to, as we do with the flu virus.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you, in terms of the world, is there that one place that you were certain Slipknot would never play? Like they say that when Monty Python were booked to play the Hollywood Bowl, they were very reluctant to do it because the one thing they had always said was, this will never play in America because we are so fucking English and the sense of humor is so British.
Right.
The Americans they don't do irony apart from anything else. They just won't get it. And they turn up on stage at the Hollywood Bowl and the entire audience is word perfect.
Right.
Is doing the sketches along with them, and it blew them away. Was there that one part of the world that you thought, well, I don't know about this, to find?
I had some. I was a little worried about Japan at first, just for the fact that we're such a gnarly, confrontational band. At least we were back then. That I knew the culture didn't exactly lend itself to that. Having been, having
not exactly bowing.
And yet, it was probably one of the biggest reactions we've ever had.
I'm not surprised, really.
It was insane.
They were waiting their whole lives to let it out. And they let it out at a Slipknot concert.
We were doing shows and then doing in-store signings. And they were having to rush us out of the shows to get into these vans. And the fans followed us out. And it was right out of the Beatles, dude. I mean, they were shaking. And we're inside going, this is cool. We're going to die.
Isn't it great being famous? Get us the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was intense. So, it's definitely something that it blew me away. I was like, if we can have this kind of impact here, then God knows. I mean, there's nowhere we can't go, you know. And lo and behold, that's kind of been the case.
Wow, fantastic. Power of music, man. Well, but it's very much a thing with metal. I'm not the greatest metal fan.
And say you're about to disappoint this guy who says finding out Doug is a metalhead.
Oh, there you go. No, Doug is not a metalhead.
And a Monty Python fan is probably the best thing I've heard all week.
Absolutely a Monty Python fan. But no, I'm not a metalhead. I don't reject it. I don't have a problem with it. I listen to everything. I don't like every musical genre, but I listen to everything. I mean, I'm still listening to everything and still finding new bands, and I love that process. And I still have a long list of albums that I really liked from last year that I have to whittle down, and then I will buy them all. I still do that. I insist on doing that.
You make a top. Is it 100 top 100
it's
albums
not that
or
many.
50?
It's not
50.
that many.
It's 50. Every year he makes a top 50
albums
of the year.
30 and 50.
Nice.
But I'm not a metalhead, but there's so much about the music that that touches a nerve with me, and obviously part of that is the horror connection. But the point I was going to make was that, and it's absolutely true with Slipknot, but with metal, it touches a visceral, animal, a fundamental place.
Right. Yeah.
Which I respond to. To be honest, part of my issue with metal is just that a lot of it sounds the same.
Yeah, and I can't argue with you.
And I just get turned off by that, no matter what the musical genre may be.
Right.
And I'm always interested to try and it's one of the reasons I mentioned Iowa, because that stands out to me, and I enjoy. I've loved going back and listening through your stuff ahead of this, and hearing the ways in which Slipknot has moved and changed, and elements have come and gone and come back again through it. So anyway,
who are you listening to these days, Corey? People are asking what kind of newer bands that you're into at the moment.
I read a comment from you. I said you were a man of trenchant opinions, not afraid to give voice to them. 3 little words: rock is dead.
Oh yeah, people have been saying that for 40 years. I'm so tired of every time they say that, something blows up. And right. I mean, they said that last year, and now it seems like every pop artist is trying to do a rock album, so everybody can kiss my ass. I mean, as far as newer stuff goes, there's a band. Oh my God, there's a band from Australia called Amyl and the Sniffers.
Called who and the Sniffers?
Amyl. Yeah, AMYL, like amyl nitrate.
Oh, amyl. Right. I thought you were saying anal. I thought we were back in the
back in the porn
emporium. No.
Amyl.
They are. Yeah, they just dropped an album last year. What's it called? Oh God, I can't think of the album, but their latest album is so good. You should definitely check it out. If you're into punk, it's really, really, really great. It's fast, it's frenetic. The singer, she is so frenetic and all over the place, but it's really, really good. You should definitely check it out.
Cool. I mean, on the name alone, you have to.
That would check them out. If I saw that name come up, I would certainly just
listen.
What?
Yeah. That's how we used to find. That's how we used to find bands. Back in the late 80s and early 90s. You were just, that name sounds cool. That album cover looks cool. Right. You just listen to it. No, none of this 30-second sampling on Apple Music. Yeah.
Well, yes. No. Well, and way back in the day, I found the great John Peel's radio show on Radio 1 in the late 60s, and Radio 1 was wall-to-wall pop, God bless it. I mean, you know, and this was back in the day when it was broadcasting,
Right.
as opposed to narrowcasting, which I think increasingly we have now. But back in the day, listening to Radio 1, you know, you'd be going from the Beatles to Sinatra,
Right.
to Pink Floyd, to Engelbert Humperdinck, you know, almost seamlessly. It was, everything was in the mix. But Peel was playing, you know, the stuff that I just wouldn't hear otherwise. I was a teenager. I couldn't afford to be buying a lot of albums. There was nowhere else to go and hear it. You couldn't, you know, trot off to Spotify,
right.
Music or whatever, and know that, you know, within reason, anything and everything you want to hear is right there in front of you. You had to work hard to find it.
Right.
At all back in the day. And I remember there was also a British DJ who I liked a lot. He was a bit of a protege of Peel, very heavily into world music. I developed a love of African music through him, but he was a huge fan of The Clash. Andy Kershaw, his name.
Oh, right.
As I was, possibly my second favorite band after the Beatles.
Right.
I think Strummer was a genius. But he said, and I remember at the time thinking, well, you know, I like him and all, Andy, but this is a bit ridiculous. He said when the Clash broke up, he didn't see the point of rock and roll anymore, because the Clash had taken everything that went before them and had reinvented it and had created something new, and nobody could add to it. And I thought that was facile and fatuous, and, you know, proven wrong over and over and over and over again. And that's the thing that excites me, is always that, you know, like Amel and the Sniffers is like, right. Oh, wait, what? Who? What is this? What the fuck is this? You know, like hearing Bob Marley for the first time.
Right.
And a whole world opens up that I didn't know was there. That, you know, 1973, I think I heard them first. And well, we should probably let you go.
Probably should.
Yeah, I got to go be a dad again.
Cool. Cool.
I have to go make lunches.
And your son is in a band.
Yeah, he's in a band called Vended.
Vended.
Yes, yeah.
Vendead?
No, just DED. VEND.
Like sold.
Yeah.
Vended. Right.
Yes.
Okay. I will be checking them out. Say hi to him.
Taking directly after you, or
he's got an interesting cadence. Like, he's kind of taking from like a bunch of other different influences, and a lot of people say his voice sounds like mine, like the heavier stuff, but I disagree. He has such a distinct, like there's a tonality to his voice that is so him, that I can hear him in it, you know, just from being in his life, his whole life, you know.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to watch him developing it. So yes, he does have that kind of, he leans that way, but he sounds like himself, like in so many, and his writing is really good. His lyrics are really, really good.
Cool.
Okay.
Now, is this something that you thought would probably happen, that you were hoping might not happen, or
you really hoped
you really
he'd be
not...
a lawyer, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
no, actually, I never steered him in one direction or another. I always told him, I was like, you know what, follow your heart, follow what you want to do. You know, if you're happy doing it, just make sure that at some point you can pay your bills. You know, that's really all I said. So I watched him as he was younger, kind of find his way to it. Like when he was 12, he probably could have been the furthest away from it. Like he was a really great singer, a great dancer too. And he's going to kill me for saying that. But he was very into video games, but he also wanted to be a florist. Like that was his big thing. Like he wanted to be a botanist or a florist. And I was like, you know, those are two different things, right? Like he's like, yeah, whatever. I just want to do it. I just want to work with plans. I was
Pretty
like,
cool, though.
That's
all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then literally 2 years later, he was asking me again to show him how to play guitar. He was starting a band with some friends of his from junior high, and actually one of those dudes is still in the band that he's in today. Like, so they've come so far, and it's just really, 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 really cool.
Neat.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I read the other day, by the way, this kind
Oh.
of blew me away. This is the most 90s thing ever. Kurt Cobain's daughter is dating Tony Hawk's son.
Oh my
Do you hear
god!
that?
Wow.
No,
That's
this is
kind of-
news to me, but that makes so much sense on so
Right?
many levels. Yeah.
Wow.
This is
Oh,
a
God.
joke, right?
Amazing.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Watch
see what
this
happens
space.
with that pairing.
Sorry, we've been yammering for close
Yeah.
to 2 hours, and we should
Oh,
probably let you go. I think we could keep going for another 2 hours.
oh, yeah, easily. Well, that just means we got to do this again. Remember?
I would
Yeah,
love
we
to.
should.
I would love to.
Right.
Good luck with the tour, hither and yon. And
You're gonna have to name your tour that now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put a word. I'll have a word.
does it have a name? The tour? Everybody.
At this point, I don't even know. Just North American Tour Part 7. You know, it's just that's all I got.
Sounds good.
And thank you once again for being on the show.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure, and
Thanks.
I'll see you out on the circuit, man.
I hope
Probably
so.
run into
Hope
each
so.
other at a convention again.
Look
Sounds
forward
good.
to it.
And if you
All
come
right.
around our way, we'll come out and see you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you
All right,
once again, Corey.
See you guys
Thank you.
later.
And
Bye.
everybody that came along tonight, thanks. And come back. I hope.
Yes. Are there familiar
Spread the
names
word.
here? Are we seeing familiar names? Oh, there's Lena
Of course.
Lovecraft. As soon as I look at the screen,
Familiar
It's
names,
following
yeah.
us over from Twitch. Cool. Hello,
Yes.
Lena. Has everybody been having fun in the chat? I
Yes,
can't
sir.
see any of the chat. It just kind of
Yeah, it goes by.
goes by.
And
Okay.
they talk amongst themselves and ask questions.
And no
But,
power cuts.
And no power cuts. So
No, it was a great stream.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everyone come back, hopefully.
Where are we? What's happening? There will not be a show.
No, we're definitely not doing it next. Oh
I
no.
don't think
No.
we should.
It could be funny. No.
Should I say why?
Go ahead. It's something you
Well,
want to encourage people to do, right?
It is, yes. Well, I mentioned to Corey that I'm having my +2 year tests, and they're happening next week. So on Monday I have my CT scan.
I thought it was
That's
Tuesday.
okay. No, that's Monday.
Oh,
So that's okay. It just, you have to drink the pint of antifreeze before you do it, that I had a weird reaction to the first time. I could barely
for the
stand
teeth.
up.
It's that it's the
It's
what the
fucking
fuck is it
disgusting.
called?
I know that.
I was gonna say you have to drink radiation, but that's not right.
And then,
Contrast.
Yeah.
dye. Contrast dye. That's what it
yes,
is.
and then as soon as I'm over that, I will be taking large quantities of laxatives and magnesium citrate, because I have my colonoscopy on Thursday afternoon.
This is your public service announcement.
It is my public service announcement. So basically, go get
your colonoscopy. You might have the canker.
touch wood. I have no reason to suppose that the canker in my anal canal,
in your anal canal is back.
may have a little SNL for the kids there. May have recurred. I'm absolutely damn certain it hasn't. But I'm not quite sure what state I'll be in come Thursday evening.
Yeah.
Anyway, one way or another, we're not doing a show next Thursday, so
Yeah.
we will be back on the 17th.
We can live stream your
And I know I've said this.
your
Well,
colonoscopy.
there you
can
go.
ask them if we can live stream the
Can we do that? Can we?
as they snake through your
Can we?
colon.
Can we
camera.
attach the camera to the YouTube and?
Yeah, I mean, we just probably have to put a little flower somewhere to censor the screen, or some object.
Someone says
You can do what you like. I'll be asleep.
Chad Magnus
Um,
says, nothing wrong with making sure your pooper is super.
Super pooper. There you go. An ABBA song, isn't
You
it?
win, Chad. You
Um,
win for the evening.
Yeah. So, and I do Top Thump about this now. So, if you have a history of this in your family, if you know when your father or your mother was diagnosed with it, then subtract 10 years and start getting tested.
Yeah.
And particularly for the guys, 55, I think, or even 45, they talk about now, do they?
Yeah.
Because I was an idiot. I didn't do that until I had reason to suppose something was not quite right, and they found a little horror monster lurking up my butt. So now I know we've said this before. Should I not say anything until
Let's not risk it.
doubly plus certain? But
when we come back, it'll be
Yeah,
us.
okay.
It'll just be us.
no, it won't.
It won't?
No, because that's the 10th, and then the 17th won't be us.
We have a possible guest, but we're not sure yet, and we're not going to discuss it until
Well,
it's
he's said yes,
100%.
and then the week after would be us. But anyway, you will, announcements will be made, and you will know what's going on. But there won't be a show next week, one way or another. We will be back on the 17th of March, with or without a guest.
Right.
As far as I know,
we'll
at
know
this
that.
point.
Wear your green. It's St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, is it going to be?
Is it?
Is it Saint? What did you say? The 17th?
It will be the 17th.
Yeah,
is that St. Patrick's Day?
It is.
What does that mean? Nobody will listen because everybody will be out.
Everybody will be hammered.
I'll be drunk listening.
Okay, I don't get it.
It's okay. You don't have
to.
to.
All
right, say goodbye.
But
Bye,
St. David's Day
everybody.
just went by, went past.
Yeah, we don't
nobody
care
made
about
a big
that.
deal about that. But we love the Welsh.
People like
Anyway,
to drink.
all right. Thanks once again to everyone. Why are you laughing, David?
You guys are just great.
I'm glad you think so.
I love it.
All right.